Happy Thursday, everybody. We're almost at the end of our week. We are going to slow down, like I mentioned. I did talk about the first writing assignment and the anecdote revision assignment. Please communicate with me if you're having trouble completing them. Okay, I obviously know that you are if you haven't done them yet, but if you don't tell me, I have no idea what the holdup is. So you got to reach out to me. Um, I just want us to kind of slow our roll a little bit before we get into writing about too many things. So I went back to the author's purpose information that we did starting on Tuesday, and I pulled up kind of what these are. And I know I mentioned these in terms of author's purpose, but I kind of wanted to give you a little bit better of a resource about what they actually do. So when we talked about expressing and reflecting and all of that, if you remember, I know I talked through it, but I feel it was best to have you a little bit more detailed notes. So the writer obviously, expresses on their own life, or they look backwards in order to look forwards, right? This happened to me so that I could learn this. The same thing with informing and explaining. That should be familiar to you from expository writing. Evaluating and judging. We either focus on the worth of something or person, or we specify the criteria for being seen as positive or negative, right? We're evaluating that. To inquire is to ask a question or explore, right? To grapple with something. So it's something that's not easily answered. Or you kind of give us this overarching topic and then kind of see where it takes you in terms of maybe something that might be difficult for all of us to grapple with. Then when you analyze something, you try to break it down so that it's easier for us to understand. And then taking a stand, obviously, your goal is to get your readers to accept this position, right? To accept your particular position. And then a solution obviously provides some sort of explanation or action that we can take to a problem. So if you go back to the Thursday folder, there are some samples here. I don't want you to get too caught up with all of this, but this blank chart is probably where you need to start first. And if you have those notes on purposes for writing, you can have that up and then be working on something on paper, or you can print it out if you have the means to print it out at home. I'm not worried about it. But this is what we're going to do and what we're going to complete. So if you want, you can print this out and write on it. You can create it in a Google Doc with a table, or you can just draw it on a piece of notebook paper and take a picture of it. No big deal. But I would like for you to choose one topic of your choice, maybe something you're most passionate about, or something that you have a lot to say. And then you can, practice this. So I did also give you a student example, and her example was volleyball. So it says student sample chart. With volleyball, she had the purpose chart with her, and she was like, okay, if I'm looking at an experience, right? For her, it was, her feeling, her lessons that she's learned. So how she came to love volleyball, or maybe what like losing a game has taught her and how it impacts her life. Then for informing and explaining, something about that we don't know, like explain the game, what's the easiest way to learn volleyball, explain the reason she loves it, right? Evaluating and judging, best moment, what's good or bad, to wrestle with a question, the why, some solutions. So you can kind of go through this and see kind of what she wrote. There's no right or wrong answer. And then if you go back to mine's a little bit more complicated, but obviously right now that there's nothing else I can think about except for teaching during a pandemic. And so might be a little bit, not something that you really can grapple with as much because you're not in my position, but maybe if you changed it to like learning during a pandemic, that might make it more easier for you to break down. But yeah, these are just mine, and I underline different verbs and things that you probably want to use in your little sections. I posted mine as a lot of questions. But yeah, you have all of these different examples, and I just want you to attempt to just take something that you really have a lot to say, put it in the topic box, and just play around with it. What is something that I can relate to or explain, or what's the problem? What could be a problem with this? So try that out. That's it. You don't need to turn it into me. I'm going to have the utmost faith that you will have access to it, because we are going to come back to it quite a bit over the next week. So if you have questions or you would like for me to go over something with you, you know where to find me. You can text me, email me, or hop on the Zoom later, or maybe even tomorrow morning or whatever. Okay. So hopefully you'll have this done before tomorrow's class period, and then we'll move on from there. All right. Have a good one.